Uncomfortable subject, but can we talk about how it's not always a good thing that modern medicine has turned many fatal illnesses into chronic ones? This comment was left on a video that I made the other day that kind of blew up about my experience caring for my dad with Lewy body dementia and the abysmal state of elder care here in America and how much of a burden it puts on adult daughters in particular. It's a crisis in America that I think that we are not prepared for. My parents were silent generation, and so I'm a little bit ahead of the curve. But as the boomers age, this is going to become a massive problem that we do not have adequate health care in terms of facilities and caregivers for our elderly who are living longer but with lower quality of life. We have all of these advancements in medicine to keep people alive longer. Things that would have killed them in the past can now be resolved with medication or treatment so that they become chronic conditions. In generations past, my dad would have died of a heart attack much earlier, but thanks to modern medicine, he was able to live a lot longer, but it meant that he died of a much nastier illness with a lot more suffering. In the 6 years preceding his death, my dad almost died twice of pneumonia and was in the ICU. Thanks to very expensive, very intensive treatment, he recovered both times. And at the time, I was grateful. I was like, thank God Dad made it through this. And you may think it's callous of me to say this, but they call pneumonia the old man's friend for a reason. It's not a terrible way to go, but you know what is? Lewy body dementia. Watching someone lose everything about themselves, have hallucinations that are terrifying to them, lose control of their body, no longer able to walk, no longer able to get food to their mouth. And once they get it to their mouth, they're no longer able to swallow. They become a huge risk for aspiration and choking. We have this obsession in America, especially I think the older generations have this obsession with never dying. We're afraid of death. And we will do anything to cling to life as long as possible, even when the quality of that life is abysmal. And a number of healthcare workers in my comments were saying that they see this from loved ones all the time, putting in feeding tubes for folks whose bodies are shutting down, using extreme measures for elderly folks who have lived the majority of their life. They've lived 70, 80, 90 years, and we're doing these extreme things to limp them along another couple of weeks or another couple of months because we cannot bear to let them go, even though it means much more suffering for them. We have these medical advancements that will keep people alive, but at what cost? Not long after my mom died, my dad had a massive stroke. In generations past, that would have killed him. But not only did he survive, but a neurosurgeon pushed brain surgery on him. An almost 80-year-old man who was blind, had significant health issues, and had had a massive stroke. He had great insurance. He had massive surgery that cost many hundreds of thousands of dollars. Went to a rehab facility, only for him to be immediately diagnosed with dementia afterward. I do think a lot about how at the time I was grateful that modern medicine saved my dad from pneumonia and then pneumonia again and then from his stroke. But in hindsight, I wish he had died of any of those things rather than dementia. And I could say how this is a little bit our puritanical, evangelical, pro-life way of thinking. But when we try to keep elderly people alive who have lived a long and full life, we are just prolonging their suffering. I know the Fox News boomer set are terrified of death panels and whatever fabrications have been pitched at them over the years. But the reality is that we spend the majority of healthcare expenses on someone in the last year of their life. And their quality of life during that time is incredibly low. Why do we have this obsession in America with clinging to life at all costs? Even when it's not a kindness, even when it's a cruel thing to keep someone going. Even when we could have given them a kinder, gentler, more compassionate death early on by not intervening in the natural processes that were going on. I don't have all the answers here. I don't really have any answers here, but these are things that I still think about a lot that keep me up at night. Thinking about how my dad, a physician, wanted every intervention. He wanted everything done to keep him alive as long as possible. And so did the medical system. And so did some of our relatives. But in the end, that wasn't a kindness, that wasn't compassionate, that wasn't loving, and it caused him a great deal of suffering and caused our family a great deal of suffering as well. And I think our story is not unique in America.